Welcome back to part 3 in my series in which we examine this. Now, if you haven't already done so, please go watch parts 1 and 2 and come on back. And for those of you that have made it this far, I really appreciate you being here and sticking around. My goal over the next several parts is to walk you through the research that has been conducted over the last several decades. Let's start at the beginning and focus on 2 pioneering women in infant aquatics. This woman right here is Myrtle McGraw. Myrtle McGraw was an American neurobiologist, psychologist, and child development researcher. She's well known for her study of Jimmy and Johnny, and her publication of Swimming Behavior for the Human Infant laid the groundwork for future infant aquatic programs. Then in 1967, Virginia Hunt Newman rose to fame by publishing the book Teaching an Infant to Swim. These 2 women are pioneers and paved the way for infant aquatics for decades to come. So essentially from the 30s until the 70s, there wasn't a lot of research being conducted in the field of infant or child swim lesson. Transitioning out of the 70s and the 80s, the Learn to Swim industry saw an explosion of interest, especially in infant swim lesson. By the mid-1980s, it was estimated that approximately 5 million infants went through infant swim lesson programming across the United States. And by the 1990s, we had 3 leading organizations all conducting their own infant aquatic programming: American Red Cross, YMCA, and the National Swim School Association. So what's interesting to note is from the 60s to the 80s, introducing infants to the water was considered an unconventional novelty. But from the 80s until present day, infant swim lesson programs is widely acceptable and favorably viewed. However, for a very long time, there was considerable backlash by the American Academy of Pediatrics. In fact, in 1971, the Council for the Cooperation in Aquatics published a statement denouncing infant swim lesson programs unless the children were 3 years and up. But since the mid-80s, that council, as well as the American Academy of Pediatrics, has consistently revised their policy statement and has changed it to be more supportive of infant swim lesson programs. The 80s and 90s is where infant aquatic programming saw the biggest surge of interest, both by parents and by researchers. And many started to question the claims of the efficacy and validity of aquatic programming for preschool kids. So in the mid-80s, the very first peer-reviewed research journal was created called the National Aquatic Journal. In our next part, we're going to take a look at the research that was conducted in the 80s and how it impacts swim lesson programs as they looked at skill acquisition and its order. Follow for part 4.